All right, hey guys, welcome to another episode of From the Crow's Mouth. I'm your host, Mitch Cumming, the lead singer and songwriter and guitar player and all sorts of roles behind the band Stone Cold Crows. We've got another doozy of an episode for you. We're going to get back to talking about the songs on our debut album today, Original Sin Part 1. I hope you've checked it out. We're almost at 50,000 streams, and for not having ever played live, that's pretty cool. We're really looking forward to 2022. Bryce and I are going to get together this week to go see Crownlands in Ottawa, of course, and next week we're going to sit down and talk about 2022. So we got some exciting stuff coming up, but first and foremost, as usual, let's have a little sip of something delicious. Today I'm going to be featuring this little drink here in the champagne flute called a French 75. So let's show you how to make one of those, and then buckle up because we're going to talk about the song The Beast I Am. Let's do that. Hey guys, on today's rock and roll bartender segment of From the Crow's Mouth, a video podcast hosted by me, Mitch Cumming, lead singer, creative mastermind, and guitar player behind the band Stone Cold Crows, I'm going to show you how to make a classic cocktail that dates all the way back to 1915, World War I era. It was invented in Paris at Harry's New York bar, and a lot of classic cocktail recipes came out in that bar at that time. But this one is named the French 75 because it was named actually after the 75mm howitzer cannon used by the French and Americans in defense against the Germans. And they named it that because despite the being served in a champagne flute, it's got quite a kick to it, and it was said to have a similar kick to the weapon itself. So what you're going to need for this drink, typically it's made with champagne. I'm going to use sparkling wine today. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter too much, but you're going to want some kind of sparkling wine. You're going to want gin. Today I'm using Roku gin, a Japanese craft gin. I really like it. You're going to want lemon juice. As always, guys, if you have fresh squeezed lemons, limes, or whatever, it's always better, but for the sake of simplicity in these videos, I usually just use a bottle like this. But again, you want to take your time and of space, of course. So without further ado, I'm going to show you how to make this drink. First thing you want to do is fill a shaker with ice. I've already done that in advance because, well, I don't have a fridge in this little room here or freezer. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our simple syrup and we're going to put 3/4 of an ounce into our shaker. Then we're going to do the same exact measurement with the lemon juice, 3/4 of an ounce. Okay. And last but not least, we're going to add the gin. In this, my take on it, I do 1.5 ounces. Again, you want to have a little bit of a kick to the drink. So I typically make my cocktails fairly strong. I like the taste, and it's better strong if you're using good quality liquor. Honestly, if you're getting the cheapest stuff off the rail, you're gonna want to use that only for like mixed drinks that have a lot of mix, and anything that like a real cocktail lets the liquor take the wheel sort of and really drive the flavor. So those are the only 3 ingredients though: 1.5 ounces of gin, 3/4 of an ounce of simple syrup, 3/4 of an ounce of lemon juice that you're gonna put in this shaker. What you're going to do is shake it. 15 seconds is usually enough. You just want to make sure that all the liquids get mixed up. And are nice and chilled. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take it. This one has a strainer, some don't, but you're going to want to strain it into your champagne flute. That nice concoction there. And you should have about half of the glass, approx, depending on the size of the champagne flutes that you use, full. Now this recipe would call for 2 ounces of sparkling wine or Prosecco or champagne. Essentially, you just want to top up the rest of your glass. And so here we are. Watch it fizz up a little bit. Ooh. It's very pretty. And then you're going to want to add your garnish. Now I always do this stuff typically in advance. Cut some lemon wheels. I've taken the lemon part of it. We're going to make a little bit of a lemon twist. Just give it a nice bit of that. And of course, to make it look nice and pretty, you're just going to slide that in. And of course, it's already got lemon in it. But that's it. Simple yet effective. The French 75. So cheers. Enjoy that. And we'll see you on the music part of the podcast. All right, so now you've got one of these absolutely delicious French 75s in your hand, or maybe you're rushing off to the liquor store to get all the ingredients to make it for the next episode. Who knows? I'm having a great time just because of how magical that tastes. So let's talk about the beast I am. And you might think, wow, this is such a dainty drink, and we're going to talk about maybe one of the heaviest songs on the album. Also, lyrical content and everything else aside, you're like, okay, dark imagery. Why are you drinking this girly-looking drink here? Well, because it's fantastic, and the song's great, and it was a last-minute addition to our album, to be honest with you, and I can tell you that story before we even started talking about the song itself. So the story behind that is... we were right about to go into the studio, and of course, the way the world has been going, we'd already had one experience with lockdowns while in the studio, and our rebooked trip back 3 or 4 months later, on the eve of our recording session, we got told we were going into another lockdown. And at that point, we just said, all right, well, let's just add another song or two and make this a damn album. Like, let's finish it. And we looked at song lengths and we looked at our budget at the time, and we thought, well, we can only really add one song, and that would make it an album, though, based on time and everything. And so The Beast I Am was the song that I submitted for a proposal, that maybe this is the track that we should add. And we didn't really have a lot of time to think about it. And at first, Bryson was kind of against it. He was like, this song's pretty boring, based on the demo that I sent him. And I'll admit, the demo, pretty damn boring. But, of course, the way that I write music is I allow for all these little things going on in my head that other people can't hear, of course, in the song's infancy. But I've got space available for other parts, and I got all these ideas. And I just said, hey, man, just trust me on this one. I think it's going to turn out well. And I convinced him the night before, and he was down. And Adam was down to pretty much record whatever, because we just have a lot of fun in the studio creating music. So based on our track record up to that point, he thought, whatever, doesn't matter what you pick, we're going to make it good. So that was it. And so we went to the studio the next morning. The Beast I Am was actually the first track that we recorded out of... Brave New 84 and System Breach, Ghost in a Bottle, The Last of Us. We ended up just doing this one first. And man, did it ever set the tone going forward, just with that introduction alone. And one of the things that I would do to try and bridge the gap a little bit for me not being able to express some of the melodic ideas that I have running around in my head when I put a song together, because I know we're going to add instrumentation that I don't have access to. So what I would do is I would send Adam and Bryson the demo, which is recorded on like my ancient ass technology that doesn't even work. It's got a CD drive built into it, and that's how you're supposed to get the data off. That's how old it is. And some of the inputs don't work, and I've got to like put some weight on a cord to keep it properly, and one of the channels will go in and out, and it's just ancient. So the demos never come out sounding good, let's just say that. But it's enough that they trust that here's the song. So what I would do, though, is I would put together a Spotify playlist, and I would make a little notes on other people's songs and like the ideas that I like from those songs, and want to incorporate into our song. And maybe that will give them a sense of some kind of musical direction that I'm thinking, and then they build and get their own ideas. Sorry, cut out there. Some sort of musical direction, sense of musical direction that I'm thinking of, and then they build their own ideas on that. And it's kind of neat in the sense that we show up, we all have heard the same demo, and I've got ideas already in my head, but then new ideas build. So the Spotify playlist in this case had a bunch of stuff by Danny Elfman, his film score stuff, particularly the soundtrack to the movie The Wolfman. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen the remake of The Wolfman. Terrible movie. God, I couldn't even finish it. It was brutal. But the soundtrack is quite good. And I really like the way that Danny Elfman uses certain instruments and his pacing and everything like that to build that horror kind of suspense and erraticism with different instruments. And I thought, I really want to do that to open up this song. So I sent them a couple of tracks by him. And we ended up building the intro based on that vibe. And so we added like the staccato violins and the reverse snare drum, but not on the downbeat. So it kind of creates this erratic feel to it where you're expecting it to show up in the song and then it doesn't. And people would always ask me, what the hell is that instrument that you guys did at the beginning of the song as soon as it comes in? Like, what is that? It's actually just a bass guitar. And we took a page out of Motorhead's book and ran it through a guitar amplifier and then did some other mods to it to give it that really rumbly, gritty sound. And so that was how we built the intro to the song, and it kind of set the pace. Obviously, you can tell that I've listened to Metallica before, if not only for the way that I sing in that song a little bit, but just for the way that some of it builds. And that's kind of intentional, but kind of not. Like, when I sent the demo to Bryson and Adam and it came back as kind of boring, that's because the riff doesn't really change that much. The melody doesn't really change that much. But AC/DC as a band is notorious for doing that in some of their great songs. Like, go back and listen to Girls Got Rhythm, and it's just the same thing over and over. They just change what's going over top of it. And so in the studio, we did that with Bryson's drums a lot and subtle variations of the same guitar riff. And of course, the added string and horn parts set it apart. So realistically, the song is a lot of the same thing going on over and over. We just build around it. And I always thought that was a fun challenge to do as a songwriter. Take one idea and stretch it out and make it different here and there. And so that's what we did. And I think the end product is really great. And the way that we broke it up is perhaps the best section of the whole song, in my opinion, which is that really pretty midsection where, coming out of the second chorus, it goes into this very soft and subtle passage where the strings, the cello, and the violin take the center stage. And then it was Bryson's idea to add the vibraphone. And at first I was like, what the hell are we doing with a vibraphone? Like, that doesn't... To be honest with you, sometimes if you're in a band out there and you disagree with your bandmates' ideas, I just gotta say this. Try it anyway. Just try it and sleep on it, because I friggin' love that now. And at the time, I was quite against it. So it just took 1 or 2 days to sit on it, and we came back and it's like, no, that was the right call. So trust your bandmates and just try things out, because you never know what's going to come out of it. And it was also his idea to add the growling vocals at the end of the song. The Beast I Am. And if you listen, you can hear there's this growl track on top of course, well, not on top of, but behind the harmonies and the main vocal line as the drums pick up right before it goes into that last heavy push of the song. That was also Bryson's idea. Also something that I hated at first, and it turns out I really like it now. So that's kind of like the story behind the musical part of The Beast I Am, but the music, as I've mentioned once or twice before in this podcast, doesn't always come first, because you need to know what the song's about if you want to create the right mood and emotion for it. And it was funny because I was listening to a podcast Bob Rock was speaking on Metallica's podcast about the creation of the Black Album. And it was funny to me how James Hetfield did not write the lyrics for the songs before they were playing them. He would just like sing or shout these vowel sounds and then put the lyrics in after. And Bob Rock comes, he's like, well, how the hell am I supposed to know what the song's direction is going to be if you don't have any words? Like, that guides the emotion. At least it should guide the emotion. And that's not always true, because classical music has emotion and there's no words a lot of the times. But in a rock song or a metal song, lyrics are a very big part of what guides the listener and the emotional state of the song. And so in this case, the lyrics are kind of a double-edged sword. The Beast I Am. All right, sounds pretty dark. And the inspiration actually came from an independent Canadian film called Ginger Snaps. It's a werewolf movie, but it's more of a metaphor for essentially like going through the stage of your teenage years, and you're going through puberty essentially, where you're all of a sudden there's these sexual urges that weren't there before, and like primal instincts are taking over these teenagers. In this case, it was done through the metaphor of the main character turning into a werewolf and losing control of herself through bestial, carnal desires. And I thought that was a really clever way of doing that. I thought, hey, what an interesting idea for a song, particularly if I'm going to write a song about my own sexual nature. Just as a disclaimer, I am not very public in my displays of affection, nor am I even public in any kind of, or even in private. I don't really discuss my love life or sexual preferences with anybody aside from who I'm practicing with. So you'll never see that out of me, but I thought, let's write a sex song because, hey, I am still a red-blooded man. I do have desire, and I thought, well, what a cool way to do it. Write about what goes down behind closed doors in the sense of a metaphor. Beauty and the Beast, I kind of relate. That's my favorite Disney character movie. I'm kind of like this brooding individual alone in his library or whatever. But I'm sure there's more going on. So lyrically, that's all it is. Surprise. The Beast I Am is a sex song. So there you go. I don't really think I need to go further on it. You can read into the lyrics and imagine whatever you want. I'm sorry if I gave you nightmares. But that's really it. So I'm going to call this one short today. Check out The Beast I Am. Wicked song. I'm really happy with the way it turned out. But you heard it here first, folks. From the crow's mouth, I'm Mitch Cumming. Cheers till next time. And remember, create cool shit and dare to be different. We'll see you next week.